Oh, hold on, Koda. Whoa. I tell ya, have a look out there. Threw down a bit of grass seed and I didn't water it or anything. I basically threw the seed down, ran over it one more time with the ATV and the harrow, and that thing looks pretty good out there. Grass is coming up nicely. We'll see what it looks like next year. Anyways, let's continue on here. First and foremost, I got to welcome you guys back. Hope you're doing well. Beautiful day out here. Koda dog and myself are out for a little rip. And many of you have been asking about him, and he is doing just fine. The cooler weather is better for him. The warm weather, he tries to hide out, and so as soon as it gets cool, you start to see him a bit more. Anyways, as you guys can see, we are coming up on the tiny house or the cabin. Welcome. Let's go and have a little look-see. That's what we're going to be talking about today. We're talking about the tiny house slash cabin and how it's been. So I built this tiny house slash cabin about 3 years ago. Every piece of wood that this thing is made out of, with the exception of a few pieces of plywood, came from trees on this property that I harvested and then milled into lumber. Now this thing is, well, it's a design I've sort of created, and I didn't have any plans to go on. What I wanted here was a bit of a walk around. I wanted to have a big sliding door for light, and I wanted to have this roof line. You guys can see that's a 12-12 pitch up there, so it's a very steep angle. The one side sort of fans out a little bit, and that gives me that overhang. The other side, if we look up there over top of Koda, you guys can see that's where the chimney comes up. So nice high sides on it, nice overhang, gives me a little walking area, and we'll head up there in just a second. Little walking area, you walk down, turn right, get to the sliding door to enter. Along this side, if we have a look, you guys are going to quickly notice that this is built on quite a hill. And by the time you get to the bottom, well, it's pretty much at head height. It's probably 5 or 5.5 feet high down here. So if we duck our head underneath the cabin here, you guys can see how it's built. You can also see a dog up in there. But as you guys can see, there's a series of posts. There's 12 of them in three different rows. On top of the posts, you see some beams. And on top of the beams, ultimately, you have the floor. Now, all these posts are well supported with these braces, 2x4 braces in both directions. And underneath the posts, we have some concrete blocks. Many of you guys have said to me over the years that this would move because of frost. And I can tell you after 3 years, it hasn't moved at all. Whether that's luck or not is to be said. This right here hasn't moved, in my opinion, because the soil is so well drained. It's also a nice hill. So if water does come down, it's not going to sit underneath the concrete block. It's not going to sit in that well-drained soil. And so when that water turns to ice in the winter and expands, we're not going to get that raising or expansion in the soil. Ultimately, you're not going to have any motion. That's at least my opinion. That's why I built it this way. And that is certainly a lot less work than digging down 4 feet, putting your concrete in the ground and building on top of it. Anyways, you guys ultimately will make your decision for yourself, but that is my reasoning. If we duck around here just a little bit, you guys can see the nice siding here. It's 1-inch boards, 1-inch board overlapping other 1-inch boards. 1-inch boards as well for the deck. And down here you can see the rim boards. There's that beam. We step back just a little bit further and we're going to look upwards here. You guys are going to see how steep this side of the roof is. You're also going to see the nice green architectural shingles. One of the few shingle jobs I've ever done. I think I did half decent. And then up there you can see the chimney. Now, one thing I'm going to ask you guys for is a little bit of advice, some suggestions as to how I'm going to get up there in order to clean that chimney. I haven't had enough fires yet where I need to clean it, but I can tell you that day is coming and I'm not sure what's going to happen to get up there. If you guys can imagine, from where the flashing is on the roof to the top, well, that is probably 6.5 or 7 feet tall. If you can imagine, I can barely reach my hand over and into that chimney, even when I'm standing right at the base there. So I'm going to have to figure something out. Anyways, let's continue on here. You guys can duck your way down here and say hello to Koda. Oh, he's not talking. Okay. Underneath here, I've got this this flashing essentially that allows for water when it drips off the edge of the building. It hits the flashing and falls downwards. One point about flashing and water and dripping, I don't have any eaves troughs on this building. I think that might be a good addition. Maybe at some point if I was noticing I'm getting too much water falling here. I do have drip edge though, obviously, so the water does have somewhere to fall off and not go up against the building. Looking at the windows here, we've got windows, usually at least one on each side, two on the end here. On the opposite end, we have a sliding door, and we have a window way up high. Anyways, let's make our way up here, and let's just have a little look-see inside. And you guys can see I got this sliding door here. Luckily for me, this was a freebie, and well, I think it looks pretty good. We also have this nice deck up here, which reminds me I got to make sure to add to my to-do list a railing, because you would not want to fall off here. Anyways, let's make our way inside, and I'm going to take off the old loafers. And although you guys won't be able to notice it, it is very cool in here, despite the fact that it's warmer outside. The reason it's really cool in here, I put a lot of effort into sealing this up with insulation, vapor barrier, plywood, siding, interior finishes, because I wanted it to be comfortable. Looking around here, I got to tell you, it is comfortable. We got my favorite chair in the house right there. We got a little pull-out couch here if you ever wanted to sleep down below. And up this way, we'll quickly just duck up here and have a little look-see. You guys can see we got a big bed up here. And although I can't quite remember the size, something leads me to believe that that's a queen size. So nice sleeping area up here. We also have a window at the end for ventilation. And we'll just drop back down here and you guys can get a good look-see at the rest of it. So looking around, tons of light here, really high ceiling. I can't remember what that is, but I want to say it's almost 14 feet, or maybe that was 12 feet to the underside of the ridge there. Up this way, I can't even touch the underside of that bed there. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's 8 feet to the underside of that wood finish there. Looking out this way, you guys can see nice views still, and we have our nice spot to sit here with the coffee table. And just to give you guys a bit of an update on the interior, all this interior wood is also built with wood that I harvested from the woodlot and ultimately milled on my sawmill. So all this stuff was green, and it was put up green. So all this wood was green and put up green. And as a result, we got some contraction, we got some wood shrinkage. And you can see I did account for that when I was installing these boards. I accounted for that by putting some material behind it that's black in color. I put down some tar paper, and some of you guys are probably still wondering about that, because at the time, many of you said that tar paper is not the best solution. Maybe I'd use something different in the future, I don't know. But one thing I can tell you, the tar paper does not smell. I don't notice any ill effects from it. And so luckily, I think it turned out pretty well. And it also allowed for a good look to the interior. When you look at the siding here, the interior finish rather, when you look between the cracks, you don't see anything like insulation, pink insulation or vapor barrier. And that's what I wanted, because I knew with green lumber, you were going to get that shrinkage and you're going to start to see cracks. Some other things inside here that really work well is this wood stove. And if you haven't seen this cabin / tiny house before, you're probably going to say to yourself, boy, that's a big wood stove for this space. It sure is. This thing, I think, is designed to heat up to 900 square feet. And I can tell you, this is like 100 square feet that I'm standing in. So 900 square feet compared to 100 square feet, this thing will cook you right out of here. One thing that's going to potentially be changed in the future is getting a smaller wood stove. But at the time, I didn't want to spend a lot of money. And so this thing I got for free. This was the only thing, the chimney, that I had to spend a little bit of money on. So this chimney is typically for outside exterior walls, not interior. But this was a good price, and so I decided just run this straight up through the roof as a straight run and right out the roof there. This right here is also good because we don't need any extra heat in here with that wood stove. So despite this insulating this room from the heat, it is definitely worthwhile because we don't want any more heat coming in here than we already have. And in talking about the inside, I can tell you one of the things that I really like about the tiny house, and I still really like, is having windows that open, like every window. They also all have, oh, better unlock it. They also all have screens. And so if you guys notice, if you want to get some outside air flowing in here, you just open all the windows up. Because we have them on every single side of this building, including way up there in the loft, you can open the windows and you get a beautiful cross breeze in the summertime. So that's real nice. It's also nice because if you guys can imagine, if you leave this cabin absolutely sealed tight when you're not here, it's going to start to get kind of musty in here. So what I do, I just leave the window just cracked enough so that we can get some cross ventilation for when I'm not here. And that makes it so we don't get that musty feeling. Anyways, guys, let's talk a little bit more about some of the interior finishes, including some of the lighting I've done. Now this lighting is a 12-volt system. Basically, I've got a 12-volt battery down there. You guys see it? And if we duck over here, the 12-volt battery is also hooked up to a solar panel outside, which acts as a trickle charger to keep this battery up top, or topped up rather. So these two wires go into the wall, and they ultimately come up and around, and they come back to these switches. These are not the only two switches. In fact, in this building, I have 3 circuits. 2 circuits come to these switches, 1 circuit each. And then up top, I have another circuit with its own switch. These two, if we turn them on, they control different sets of lights. Looking up there, you guys can see lights way up on the peak. And if you keep looking up there, my other switch is right above my head. So I've got some lights there and there. Why do I have that? Well, if you guys can imagine, you don't always want to have this place fully lit. You want to have it sometimes just a little bit of light just so you can see, but it's not going to blind you. The other light, and we'll just move this over just a little bit so you can see what we're dealing with. The other light is up top, and it's easier to do this with 2 hands. Maybe I'll set you guys down for a second. You guys still with me? There we go. And this is a solid maple staircase here, so as you can imagine, there's some weight to it. Well, let's head up top here. You guys can see how the maple staircase sort of slides on this bar. We have another switch right here, and you guys can see there it provides lighting up here. Why do I have a switch right here? Because when you get into bed at night, you want to walk up this ladder, turn on the switch, get into bed, read your book or whatever you're doing, and then when you want to go to bed, you don't want to have to climb all the way down, hit the light switch down by the door, and walk up here in the dark. You want to just reach over, hit that switch, and go to bed. Anyways, just heading back up here. You guys can sort of see when I designed this, I made it so that a guy like myself, about 6 feet tall, can sit without rubbing my head on top of the ceiling. So lots of space up here. I didn't want it to feel too claustrophobic. And if we make our way this way, one of my favorite spots to look out. I don't know how well you guys will be able to see, but if you open the window, you guys will notice you get a beautiful view down there. You get some nice fresh air, and you can check out all the sounds and the sights of the forest. Anyways, let's close that down. And we'll just head our way back down here. And just so you guys can see what lights we have up here. There's my LED lights. There's the wiring. One thing I liked that I did is I put all the wiring behind these interior boards. I didn't want to see wires hanging everywhere. Looking down here, you guys can, well, you can look outside and see the golf cart parked there. I purposely put a window at that height, so when you're laying in the bed and looking out that way, you can see down the trail. Looking down here, you guys can see my favorite spot. You can see the wood stove and, well, the couch and everything else. As you can also tell, that's a long ways down. Where I'm sitting, I'm probably sitting at about 9 feet off the floor. Maybe if I'd build this again, I might make it a little bit smaller, a little bit shorter, but obviously I got what I got. Let's head down now. And with our ladder being hard maple, it is really solid and confidence inspiring. One thing I didn't want to have was a very cheap feeling ladder, because I got to tell you, I'm no slouch here. Maybe a few extra desserts at dinner time. And because of that, I didn't want to stand on this thing, have it flex and feel like it was going to break on me. So I was able to use hard maple and create a real nice ladder. In the future, could I design it slightly different so it folds out of the way? Yeah, probably, but for now, it's good enough. And if you guys just sort of duck your head up there, you'll see how I put it away. I just sort of push it in. And I probably should have moved the table over a little, but there we go. I can push it forward, slide it over, and it does even go a little bit further. I think that's it. All right, so that's that. Ideal world, that would fold up out of the way even more. As I said, this over here, this is a couch that can fold out. So you can have some people sleep up there, 2 more down here, and you're good to go. And let's make our way out of here. And some of you guys are going to notice my mouse trap right there. What I can tell you is I've never caught a mouse in here, knock on wood. I've tried to catch a mouse in here, not that I wanted to, but if you guys can imagine, if a mouse or multiple mice get in here and I'm not here for a while, you guys can imagine the damage they do. So I keep that trap there all the time, but luckily I haven't had to use it. Anyways, let's move on here. Beautiful spot in here, isn't it? Make our way back outside, and whew, that's a big difference in temperature. That insulation that I have in the walls, floor, and ceiling, or roof that is definitely paying off. You guys can imagine, in the wintertime, it gets really cold here, obviously, -30, -35 Celsius. When this building is fully insulated as it is, you can light basically 1 stick of wood, 2 sticks of wood in there, light it up for maybe 3 hours, let the fire go out, and that will keep the heat inside there for multiple hours. In fact, it'll keep the heat typically right through the night. I've had before where I had a little fire going and I had to go in and open the windows because I was dying of heat. As we make our way back outside, let's hope the Coda dog is still down there. He should be. Coda, you run away on me? Uh-oh. Wonder where that dog went. So while we're outside here, we'll just talk a little bit more about the insulation in the building. The walls are insulated with 2x4 pink fiberglass insulation. So the wall is 2x4 framing. And then we have our pink insulation. Inside that we have vapor barrier. Outside that we have our house wrap. And then outside that we have our plywood. The plywood provides some structural rigidity. And then over top of that we have our siding material. Underneath here we've got our floor joists. This is a rim board, but inside there we have floor joists. The floor joists have obviously 2x6 framing. The 2x6 framing has 2x6 pink fiberglass insulation along with vapor barrier. And on the underside of that, if we sort of duck our way under here, you guys will see we have some OSB strand board that essentially will keep the critters from digging in to that pink insulation. That's turned out to be really, really good so far. The insulation in the floor makes it really nice because you don't get the cold drafts under your feet, which you probably would in the winter, especially because the building's built off the ground. Stepping back here, inside the roof there, oh, here's a Coda dog hiding out. Inside the roof there, the roof is built with 2x6s between the rafters. We ultimately have the same insulation that's in the floor, so 2x6 pink fiberglass insulation. And because of that, the ceiling is really, really warm as well. And so it's completely covered by insulation and makes it really comfortable in there. We don't get big fluctuations in temperature. Do you have to insulate your sheds around here? Heck no. But if you have a cabin or a tiny house like this and you plan on sleeping out it in the warm months of summer or the cold months of winter, the insulation is a real nice upgrade. So just another thing I want to mention here, because I did build this with green lumber and many of you guys will ask me about how it turned out. Let's have a look at some of the boards here. So you can see the deck boards here. These deck boards were secured with 1 screw, and the screw went in the middle. Obviously these boards have dried out over time, but have a look. The only thing that's really happened to them, because I only used 1 screw in the middle, was we had some gaps open up, which was to be expected. But I don't have any cracks in any of this material. Same thing goes with the siding. If you guys have a look up here, there's no cracks here. How this siding is secured, if you can imagine, this board here extends about, that far. I have a nail right under this edge, and what that does is it hides the nail, but it also gives this board, as it dried, room to shrink. All right, so far so good with that nailing pattern on the green lumber. Coming down here just a little bit further, one thing I didn't do that I kind of regret is I didn't pay close enough attention to the positioning of the board, whether it was bark side up or bark side down. And here's what happened as a result. If you guys can have a look at this board where my finger is, this board has a little bit of a cup to it. Now it's not a big deal here because there's an overhang, but it does have a bit of a cup. The reason this has a cup is because the bark side, which would be this top side of this board, is facing upwards. In my opinion, and this opinion is going to vary depending on who you talk to, you want to have the bark side facing down against your framing. The reason that is, the board, when it dries, because it was green to begin with, it's going to want to cup. But if you put bark side down, sort of like this one, Well, look what happened. We don't get that cupping. See how that board, maybe just a slight crown to it? That's because the bark side, which is this side, is down on the framing. Same thing with this board. There's the bark side. But then you look at this board, which has a bit of a cup. This board has the bark side on the top. Okay, so one thing I might do differently, spend more time on that, making sure I am paying attention so that we don't get that cupping. Now, is it going to be a big issue here? As you can tell, not really. This is all rough sawn material. I just sort of put it up here as it came to me. Is it going to cause a big problem down the road? I don't think so. If you had a finished floor like inside, yeah, you might get bugged by it. Same thing holds true with the siding here. I didn't really pay close enough attention to which side the bark was facing when I secured it. As a result, if we look up here, see that right there? See a little gap under that board there? That probably could have been avoided if I put the correct side of the board facing the inside of the building. Bark side against the building would have created a crown as opposed to a cup. But besides that, everything else looks good in my opinion. I think I would just come back and maybe face nail that, and life would be good there. So as I mentioned earlier, I do have to still get a railing up here. That's on my to-do list. I just obviously haven't got to it. Another thing I'd like to do at some point is get some better looking soffits up there. If you guys have a look, I've blocked off the entrances in between the rafters so that critters can't go up there and get all up in the insulation. And in fact, I've actually drilled holes in those boards so air can pass through. But I'd like to get some nice some nice soffit there, made of wood, of course, so that we can cover that area. Likewise, if we duck around here, you guys can see up there, I haven't quite finished off the soffits here, and because of that, I got burned because that darn squirrel got in by chewing a bit of a hole in that one 2x4 there. Serves me right for leaving it too long. This right here, I'm gonna leave it open. Maybe I'll put wood siding here, I don't know. But for now, I think that's how it's gonna be. Well guys, just as I sort of finish up walking around and reminiscing about this building here, I'm just gonna tell you just a few more things about it. Many of you have asked questions like, do I live out here? Do I intend on putting cooking facilities and a bathroom and stuff like that? The truth of the matter is, no, I don't live out here. I just use this almost like a getaway. If I have guests come over, they can stay out here. It's a beautiful spot, but I don't stay out here permanently. And because of that, I don't plan on putting any cooking facilities or bathroom or anything like that. It's strictly a sleeping cabin. I find if you get a cooking facility going in there and you start cooking, well, cooking attracts wildlife, and these critters, which I'm trying to keep out, they might try to take up camp a little bit longer than I'd like. And not to mention all the floor space that'd be taken up by cooking in that for something I probably would rarely use. Anyways, guys, I think that's going to do it for me here today. When I stand back and look at that, I got to tell you, I'm still very proud of that build. That took me a lot of effort, especially when you have to make the wood as opposed to going to buy it at Home Depot. So I'm really proud of that. I think the design was quite well done, and I'm happy to say that it should be there for a number of years to come. If you guys have any questions at all, make sure you ask down below in the comments. If you want to see my other sort of videos dealing with this overall build and how it's turned out, well, be sure to check out the playlist. For everyone out there, you guys all take care. Do me that favor, if you liked the video, give her the old thumbs up and make sure you subscribe. Guys, you take care. I'll see you next time.